No three-peaty. Not this time, pal. Hey now, everybody. For those of you who have really enjoyed watching Kansas City get their lunch taken and stuffed into a locker, welcome in to the Pucknologists here, part of Teal Town, USA. Oh, this is fantastic. I can't stop watching. We got 340 left, and I'm still going to keep an eyeball on it, but hey, welcome to the Pucknologists here. Do that like and subscribe thing. You know how it works. Oh, what had happened was, well, it kind of ended how I was, hoped it wouldn't. Speaking of, getting stuffed in a locker, Sharks lost 8-3.
Let's talk about the San Jose Sharks.
Exactly. They went 0-2-1 this week. They stay 32nd in the standings. They have one win in their last 11 games. 57 games into this season, and the Sharks still have just 15 wins, 37 points, but that's two better than last season, and still on track for the number one draft pick. Tonight, we're also going to cover a little bit of Celebrini dominating the score sheets this week. The Sharks coming back from injuries. The third period record is getting worse. Did they miss out on T-Mac? We're starting to count attendance again, it looks like, and a Barracuda split. But let's start in Montreal, where it seemed like every goal had to be scored on the power play. Oh, man. So, I mean, this is how the week began. This is the first game after losing Granlund and Ceci. I mean, I think it went better than we might have expected, Ian.
Yeah, I think that in the first two games of the week, like they were, again, it's hard to try and figure out how a team's going to respond to losing a guy like Mikael Granlund, who I think has been a good mentor for the kids. He's been he's been a good soldier in the time that he was here. So it's always, you're always like, you look at a guy like him and what he brought, and like for a while they couldn't split up the Lund line, because if they did, there was no offense at all. And obviously now it's split up for good.
Yeah.
That's Jules looking rough tonight.
That is until Cam Lund shows up. Then we're back to we'll have all Lunds all the time.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, man. So, I mean, the only thing from the Montreal game that really gets me, I mean, a couple things. Graf and Potsy gets called up. Love that. You love seeing Graf get his first NHL goal with, I mean, just a chef's kiss, bar down snipe.
Yeah.
But the thing that really gets me is Zetterlund totally tied it, totally scored, and it gets waived. I don't even know what the hell they saw. It was just so ridiculously obvious that the puck went in, but nope, not a goal. Whatever.
Yeah, it's weird, right? Because like obviously like you get different broadcasts, and like the angles that I looked at, like until I looked on Twitter after, I'm like, I don't know if this is a goal or not. And then sometimes you get different broadcasts, so you get different angles that they showed. So I wasn't sure, but some of the angles on Twitter I saw were like, okay, maybe. But yeah, it is what it is.
It's just, for me, it was like very predictable. It's like, it's a goal, but they won't call it one. So it's another blown lead at home, another bad night for the PK, another 1-goal loss. And now Georgie has his 11th loss in 13 games for San Jose.
Yeah, and he gives up 4 goals in almost all of them. So
yeah, I mean,
good on him.
Yeah, I mean, God, he's really good at that part.
You know what though? I didn't think he was super awful though. He wasn't good, but I don't think he was like, I don't look at this game and be like, oh, Georgiev really gave that one away. Like I don't think the team was particularly great in front of him for large stretches of the game either.
No, but I will say the shorty that they gave up, Georgie should have had that one. But again, it's just, I feel like the Sharks want to set the record for most 1-goal losses
Yes.
Most like blown games after they're either tied or they led in the third, whatever it is. It's just it's been an incredible grouping of games when you take all of that into account. And
A
then
lot of
another,
red in the arena too.
yeah, that was a little odd. Like I've see a lot of blue when Toronto's in town, and a lot of red when Detroit is in town. I've never seen the Canadiens show up with that many fans before. That part I was kind of like, wait, what?
Yeah.
But anyway, Vancouver was next. That was an overtime loss. And that was the funny thing is coming into the week, it was just kind of like, well, they got a chance against Montreal. Vancouver and Dallas, I don't know, but and I thought they played better against Vancouver. Vanacek finally back his first start since the 14th of December. But the problem is that Demko was at the other end, and he just
Correct.
all he does is beat the Sharks. That's
Yeah.
literally all he does. But for this one, this was like the Celebrini show. You had Vancouver scores on a power play that Celebrini gave them with a puck over glass, and then Celebrini called for one of the lightest hooking calls I might have ever seen in hockey.
I was surprised that this was a penalty shot. Like I
I
could see
couldn't
like
believe, yeah.
it would have been a weak penalty, but a penalty shot, like yeah, I don't know what they were thinking there. Yeah, I think one of the I mean, usually you have to absolutely mug a guy on a breakaway to get a penalty shot, and that was not a mugging. That was like it was the softest penalty shot call I think I've ever seen.
Oh, dude, that's Crosby or McDavid. There's not even a call. No arm goes up at all.
Yeah.
It's like, do you not know who Celebrini is? Come on, man. But the interesting thing I saw on social media and whatnot is like a lot of Canucks fans were kind of like, yeah, we had all the problem with JT Miller and everything, but we're back, baby. And I'm like, you needed special teams and a bullshit penalty shot to beat the worst team in the league. Like, dial it down just a scotch.
You know what though? I mean, I don't Vancouver fans have been through it this year, man. Like this is a team that looked like it was primed to be, like a solid contender in the Pacific Division, and it did not go that way this season. So I can sympathize with them a little bit because I think they've been through it. So I think it's kind of like us, whereas like when you get something to share about, you have to make sure you get it in because you don't know what's going to happen. You might go 11 games before you get to do it again.
Ricky has a question for you though. Would you trade Wallman and Zetterlund for Noah Dobson?
Yeah, probably I would. But I don't think that the Sharks would. I like Noah Dobson. I think when you look at the Sharks prospect pool, and I think when you look at what's coming, and even if they get Matthew Schaefer, I'm not gonna call Nolan Schaefer again, Jesus Christ. Even if they get Matthew Schaefer, they're still pretty skimpy on the right side. So they're gonna have to address that somehow. And Noah Dobson would address that.
I still want to know why Vlasic is still here.
Because the cap is going to go up substantially, and they're going to need it at the floor.
Oh, fair point. I just feel bad for the guy. I mean, talk about running out the fucking clock. Oh,
yeah.
All right. Then finally, you got the game against Dallas, which is again what I'd feared.
The whole week would be.
Yeah, I thought the whole week was probably going to be like that, but goddamn, the fact that they have to live with this for 2 weeks. I mean, talk about that. It's. I think Pashelka used the line of that old Southwest commercial, like "Want to get away?" Like, yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it's gonna suck. I'm sure they're gonna be horrified while they're sitting in Cancun or doing whatever the fuck they're doing. They're gonna be just mortified.
Yeah,
I don't know,
on a
man.
beach
Like
in Cabo.
it's not like don't get me wrong. Like I'm not saying like that game shouldn't sting and they shouldn't be embarrassed, but I don't. they're gonna be on a sunny beach somewhere, just living it up because none of them are in the Four Nations tournament with Granlund gone. So
yeah. Well, and it was. I mean, let's be honest. It was pretty predictable. I mean,
yeah,
we knew this was going to happen, and the whole thing was like Dallas had lost 2 straight coming into this one, and they hadn't lost 3 all season long. So, and then of course the other thing that was really funny, it's like they had played last night, or I'm sorry, they had played the previous night in LA
Mhm.
after having 2 days off, and it was their third day in SoCal. I mean, they basically spent the week in SoCal. That was a really weird scheduling quirk. Like they played in Anaheim on Tuesday, were off Wednesday, Thursday,
Mhm.
played in LA on Friday, then came up here to play on Saturday, and it's just, man, that was weird. But talk about getting your rest in. But like 90 seconds in, Celebrini feeds Eklund, and you're like, oh, you're giving me
Here we
hope.
go.
Yeah, I'm like, God damn you. Why are you going to give me hope? And then it's a 2-0 lead. Potsy to Smith to Zetz, and it's a 2-0 lead with less than 3 minutes into the game. And I remember writing it down going, is this a here we go again situation? And sure enough, Duchesne, it's a fluky Wallman bounce. And at that point I'm like, oh, that's it. They're they're toast.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean Dallas, like they kind of stunned them. I think Dallas came out a little flat. Look at this, the Sharks are going to be an easy team to take lightly at this point, especially when you're like dressing one of their best forwards on your bench. And also have Cody Ceci, I guess. Like, you know what I mean though? Like like you're the team that was the other side of the trade. So you're looking down the bench at your Mikael Granlund and you're like, okay, well, this is gonna be an easy night. And I think the Sharks, came out with a little bit of piss and vinegar. I can't say enough good things about Macklin Celebrini and how much of a star he's gonna be. And obviously after the game in Vancouver, he came out with a lot of piss and vinegar. Unfortunately, after the Sharks get up to a couple goal lead, the Dallas Stars wake up and get back to playing hockey and being the team that everyone thinks they are. A team that's probably a pretty big Stanley Cup favorite at this point. And it sure as fuck showed for the rest of the game, because like for the rest of that period, I don't think the Sharks ever touched the puck for the rest of that period unless it was hitting Vanacek.
Yeah, no kidding. And then
Right.
for the second time in 2 straight games, the Sharks give up a power play goal off a delay over glass penalty. They gave up 7 unanswered goals. You're just going, are we kidding? Rough night for the Sharks' fourth line, as Pichelka noted. Like they had a solid game Thursday, but on Saturday, Grunstrom,
Which one's the
Delandry.
fourth line? I don't know. With what we're dressing now, we have 3 of them.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's kind of different from like the Vegas strategy where they had like 4 second lines, right?
Right. Yeah. Like the Sharks have like 3 fourth lines. Which one is the actual fourth line? I don't know anymore.
Well, to him, I guess it was Grunstrom, Delandry, and Duer, who were all
That's
dash
fair.
3.
Yeah, that's fair.
And Henry Thron benched for the final 8 minutes of the first, and was said during post, you just got to be ready from puck drop. I could have benched 14 guys, but obviously we can't. I think it's a young defenseman that's understanding how to play with urgency in certain situations. I mean, that's the comment du jour following every game. It all has to do with, it's guys learning how to do this, learning when to do this, learn.
Yeah.
I'm getting really tired of hearing that word.
What else is he going to say at this point?
Yeah. And it's basically, look, we got to learn how to play.
I'm running out of things to say at this point. I can't imagine having to do this for like a paycheck.
Oh, dude, I'm telling you, it's like I got to learn how to, play 30 games really quickly. So I mean, over the 3 games, look, a couple positives, I guess, is we finally get Vanacek back, so that's good, and hopefully that allows Askarov to just completely dominate the rest of the CUDA season. This is the first time I can remember this season that the Sharks outshot an opponent in back-to-back games. He had a couple moves. Colin White waived, clears, sent down. Delandria and Costin come off IR, so at least the injury bug is starting to go away. But as I said earlier, I mean, the record for 1-goal losses right at 26 1-goal losses. And then how many games have the Sharks lost when they have been either tied or leading in the third. There's been 37 games where they've found themselves in that situation and they've lost 22, won
That's
only
insane.
15.
Yeah, it's wild.
And they have only 15 wins. So there you go. It's an incredible number and it's only going to get worse. We know this. At some point they're going to have to beat that record that Detroit set. And I can't believe they haven't hit it yet, but I'm sure Pashelka will let us know when they do. I guess we'll just get to stock up, stock down. This is going to be a really quick show, people, because there really wasn't.
There wasn't a lot going on, right? Like,
yeah, it was like, what happened? The Sharks, had a poor record this week, as we all expected they would. Nothing out of the ordinary occurred. And, last weekend they made their team worse by trading away their, best defensive defenseman and their top scorer. What did you expect was going to happen? So stock up for me. Celebrini for one, because like I said, he was all over the score sheet this week. Like, he was a factor in every game. Not all the time was it good. I said, the delay a game penalty and whatnot, for the most part, though, solid dude. Toffoli, 4 points in 3 games. Eklund, 3 points in 3 games. Is there anybody else that you would like give some, applause to this week?
No, I mean, that line's been really good, right? And it's been, but I think I don't know. I really liked. I think that Celebrini gets all the pub, but I really like the way Will Smith has come on of late.
As do I.
I think it's easy. I think Will Smith was my stock up the last time I was on, but I just think that the way he's come on of late, especially not being on that top line, I think is, it's good. And I'm happy to see him kind of start really finding his game.
Well, I like the fact that he's, whether it has to do with, players getting moved out or injuries or whatever it is, just the fact that he's worked his way off the third line and has gotten into the top 6. But he seems to be, I tweeted it out earlier in the week that at least it's been noticeable for me that I'm seeing that he's learning when he needs to put a little extra on a pass versus just, feathering it, getting it to where it needs to be, but you don't have to break the guy's stick. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I like the fact that we're seeing him learn about that. And I see that it's a final now, 40-22. Philadelphia finally beats the Taylor Swifts of Kansas City. Thank God. All right. And I believe I've won some money. All right. Stock down on the week. I'm going to go with those refs in that the Sharks Canucks game. The fact that Ferraro takes a textbook boarding call and nothing, no arm goes up. And then again, the phantom hook that Celebrini's, that it turned into a penalty shot. Give me a break. Liljegren, however you want to say it, leading the D this week with a -3, and then Henry Thrun benched in the Dallas game. I mean, if you're getting benched on this team,
because he's the young guy. I like you calling out Timothy Liljegren though, because I am kind of sick of this dude. No, look at this guy is just fucking allergic to contact. He is watch him play. He will not, he avoids body contact like the plague, like a defenseman when you're a defenseman. And he doesn't have you could, I know a lot of people are going to immediately start screaming Erik Karlsson at me, but Erik Karlsson gets 100 points, can get 100 points in a season.
Mm-hmm. Timothy
Liljegren can't. If you have other aspects to your game that you can elevate other aspects and you can kind of get away with it, but you're not a good enough defender to not take the body. Even Marc-Edouard Vlasic, who is a notable stick first guy, even at the height of his power, notable stick first defenseman, and then could and could lay the body if he had to, but would prefer to take the puck off your stick with his stick, right?
Yeah.
But you're not that good of a defender. You're not that good offensively. I'm tired of this dude, man. I can't deal with him. He's completely allergic to fucking contact. And I think you're not good enough to be completely allergic to body contact.
Well, it's, I think we can both agree that aside from Wallman, the entire blue line just needs to be fired into the sun.
100%.
Yeah. And who was it? Hank is saying who's legitimately in the market for Ferraro before the deadline?
Oh, man, like I don't know. You say, like, because here's the thing, right? Like we all think he's dumb, but like the Dallas Stars took fucking Cody Ceci, and Cody Ceci continuously finds a home before,
Yeah,
like a playoff home before the playoffs, right? And I don't think very much of Cody Ceci. So like, I think that we're too close to it. I think we'd be surprised at the teams that would probably jump at Mario Ferraro if they were offered the right price for him.
yeah. Semcast saying I heard Colorado, also the Jets could be in the mix. I mean, sure. I just know aside from Wallman, just like the entire blue line needs an overhaul, and I'm pretty sure that Mike Greer is well aware of that. Burge, thank you so much for the super chat. See, Chiefs lost. Speaking of losers, Vegas lost twice last week. Fuck Vegas. Yeah, I think we can get behind that sentiment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there anybody else that you'd throw like under the bus this week?
No, he like Liljegren's the guy that really pissed me off this week. Because I'm just like, can you just make a body check to make a defensive play? Like I look at I don't think every defenseman has to be a big, fucking Scott Stevens guy that just murders people crossing the line. But like sometimes it's in the game of hockey, you have to make physical contact with another player to stop them.
Yeah, I don't
Like,
remember.
and that's
I don't remember like Scott Niedermayer being like super duper physical, but I never remember him like running away from hits either.
right. No, exactly right. Like, I just, yeah, man. Like, I don't think that they need to like bulk up on defense and like have guys that just murder people, but like is hitting when appropriate is like when hitting when appropriate is a bridge too far. I don't know what to tell you anymore.
So for what else this week, it came out that for the second time under Todd McClellan, the Red Wings have a 7-game win streak. And we all know the Red Wings are kind of in their own rebuild. And it just begged the question, was it a mistake for the Sharks to not go back to T-Mac when they had the opportunity?
So here's the problem with that. Remember when they retired Joe Thornton's number and we came on the show and we talked about how all the coaches but T-Mac
were mentioned.
Yeah,
but to be fair, Joe Thornton is not on this team anymore.
Yeah, but all those guys, but all those guys of that era run the fucking team now.
Yeah. It does. Right? Yeah, it really makes you wonder because when it comes to hockey, we hear it with Remenda a lot, where it's always and Han will do it too sometimes, but it's always no greater guy in hockey than this guy, and this guy is so amazing, and it's always talking and complimenting.
And I should say that like T-Mac is a pretty like among players, T-Mac is a pretty popular coach. I think that for the San Jose Sharks, though, like Detroit is in a different place than San Jose. Like Detroit, like there's a couple of teams in this spot where they should be over the hump and they're not. Ottawa Senators, another team that should be over the hump at this point. They did the rebuild. They got the guys. Now, Detroit never got the guy. Like the lottery balls, like if you want to talk about lottery balls fucking a team, I don't think it's fucked anyone harder than the Detroit Red Wings, which is why I always laugh when people are like, oh, it's rigged. Because like if you think the Detroit Red Wings being bad is good for hockey, I have a bridge in New York I can sell you.
Yeah.
While we're there. Like, so I think for a team like Detroit, which like again, I think the one problem with Detroit was they never got the guy, but they got a bunch of guys that are good. That I think you can still build around. I think they still need to like go big game hunting in free agency probably to bring in a better guy. Like I wonder if Mitch Marner hits the open market, like I wonder if the Red Wings aren't all over that. If Mikko Rantanen hits the open market, are the Red Wings all over that? Because I think that's the play for them at this point. Like they need to bring in like the superstar guy to kind of complement what they've already got. But the Red Wings are a team that should be like on the ascent now, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas the Sharks are still they're still trying to get off the runway. Like they're on the taxiway.
Well, there's
They're not
still
even
some.
on the runway yet. They're still taxiing to the runway.
I was gonna say we have endless metaphors where I'm just thinking like, yeah, there's still too many holes in the boat, to
Right.
plug. And for me, the big one is where the defense is parked. And like I see Sempcast in the chat saying, "Can we take another run at Tarasenko in the offseason? We need some marquee wingers like Taylor Hall, Rantanen, Marner." And I'm just thinking,
They need another center too.
yeah, we could use another center. Okay, the Sharks, excuse me. Sharks could use another center, but to me, it's like all the focus needs to be on the blue line right now. It's just,
Yeah. Yeah, they got to start building up the blue line because again, this is the other thing because people are like, oh, but no, but they've got this guy and this guy, Sam Dickinson's in the wing and Paul Camp and blah 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 blah. Like you can't just like build the entire team through the draft. Like it doesn't, you have to bring in like you have to do it like it. No team is just 100% built through the draft. No team is 100% built through free agency, right? Like you're gonna have to start bringing in guys via trade, via free agency to kind of bulk up this blue line at some point so that you have guys for guys like Dickinson to finally play with when he finally makes the jump to pro
well, and that you're also
and to the
not,
NHL.
and you're not also getting Askarov shelled a bajillion times a game next season.
Correct. Yeah, because I think like you want Askarov to be in the NHL facing NHL shooters at this point. I don't think he has anything left to prove in the AHL. I don't think that him being in the AHL is good for his development at this point anymore. Like he's proven that he can stop pucks at the AHL level very consistently. I don't think there's anything left to prove other than the fact that they've got 2 NHL guys on their roster and they're gonna let that play out, and I'm sure they told Askarov that was the plan when they signed him to his extension in the offseason after they traded for him. So like they need Askarov up next year, but I agree. Like I don't think it's healthy for him to just get completely annihilated with 50 shots a night because that's not setting him up for success either.
Yeah. Another thing that I noticed that happened, which I just thought was weird, and it's not a big deal. I was just kind of like, I wonder if something happened, but for the longest time, it seemed to be a thing like between Curtis and Shane as to who could tweet out the attendance figure first. The evening of every game. Because, let's be honest, if Curtis and Shane, I don't know if it's just a friendly rivalry, if it's just a coincidence thing, but it's always, if you follow both of them, it's, they always post the lines as, at the same time in the morning skates and all this. They post a lot of the same information because they're covering the same things. But one of the things that used to be was like a race to who could get the attendance figure out first. And since January 7th, I noticed that neither of them had posted what the home attendance number is. And I was just like,
what's behind the teal curtain?
Yeah, I'm like, what's that about? Like, did the Sharks just stop posting the number? Because, I mean, you can go on ESPN and find it in the box score after every game. So I was like, I don't know. It was just something that I was like, I wonder why that stopped. But then last night versus Dallas, all of a sudden it was like, oh, tonight was a sellout. And I'm like, all right. I guess we're just posting that then for now. I don't know. Either way, it was just something that I was like, things that make you go, I don't know what that was about.
It's behind the teal curtain.
Yeah. So around the NHL, the Four Nations thing starts. Aside from that, I mean, was there like anything significant that came out of the league overall this week?
No, I don't. I mean, like nothing. I don't think anything super exciting. Like I think you're obviously there isn't a trade break during the Four Nations, but I don't think anyone's going to be allowed to upstage this tournament. So because the NHL's putting it on, right? So it's not really like. I think some of the early fireworks are over. It'll be interesting to see if like maybe on one of the off days of the tournament, if like we see a couple of trades trickle out, but I think it's probably is what it is until after the Four Nations for things to really pick up.
Nice. I would love if some like ridiculous trade happened. I mean, could you imagine? You're like all into this. You're wearing your home country jersey, and I got where am I playing now? Where am I flying home? I think that would be fun. All right, let's move on to the other team here.
Ooh, Barracuda.
Oh, so The Barracuda had a pair against Tucson, and, well, they split it. You had a 4-3 loss where the Cuda had a 2-goal lead, then allowed Tucson 3 straight. Brandon Coe, Ethan Cardwell each had 2-point games, but it would not be enough in a 4-3 loss. Askarov stopped 30 of 34 in his return to action from last week's All-Star weekend. And the second game, you had a 5-3 victory with Gushin taking the first star with 2 goals and a helper. Colin White, fresh back with the team after clearing waivers, also having a 3-point game, while Thomas Bordeleau had 2 assists, and Rowanoff would stop 25 of 28. Anything stand out for you in particular for the Cuda and against Tucson this weekend?
More of the Jekyll and Hyde Barracuda. This team looks like they are completely brain dead one game, and then they come back and they have a game. And if we hadn't watched like a month worth of this, like you'd get excited. Okay, yeah, we're back. 5-3, we're back, right? But like at this point, like the wins, like until they start stringing wins together again, I'm not impressed. Like, I think it was good that Daniil Gushin had a good game because I think he's been fine, but he hasn't been great this season. Like, if you look at the numbers, he's way off pace from where he was last year. For points. And yes, he did spend some time up in the NHL, but even still, like, I don't think his production has been fantastic. I got heat in the chat yesterday on yesterday's After Dark because someone talked about Bordeleau coming up instead of Podoralski, and I've not been impressed with Bordeleau this year. I know that he's put up points recently, but I just think like when you look at a guy like Bordeleau who's been around forever and he's been kind of passed in the depth chart, like I think you just want more.
You mean
at this point in the season, like at this point in his like career, you should want more.
You're talking about Jules' favorite player, Thomas Bordeleau.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Simpcast asking Chernishev and Dickinson straight to NHL games in the final 9.
Maybe. Maybe. I don't know. It depends. I think it depends on what they've done at the trade deadline. If there's room, I think they could absolutely both get some like both sign an ATO on the Barracuda. Well, maybe like Chernishev, I think will be available. I think Dickinson's probably going back to the Memorial Cup, to be completely honest. That London team is rolling. So I don't know if the Barracuda are still playing by the time Dickinson's done. But Chernishev, I think, he's been good on Saginaw. I don't know if Saginaw has the horses to really go on a run this year that they did last year.
From Hank, he's asking, the Atlantic just ranked the prospect pool number 1. Some of these guys will need to be traded to progress the rebuild. Who are you okay with letting go? I mean, like I said, everybody on the blue line not named Wallman.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like prospects go, though,
I don't
is
that
know.
what the question?
Yeah, so I would say,
well, Bordeleau, Jules' favorite.
No, I think I don't think I would even bat an eye at Bordeleau or Gushin being traded at this point. I don't know, man. There's some guys I really like, right? Like you would have to completely floor me to trade a guy like Quentin Musty. Like
absolutely.
The return would have to be really, really good. I would throw hands with Mike Greer if Dickinson gets traded.
Yeah.
Like I think a lot of like their top tier guys I'm probably really attached to, but the rest of them, I think it depends on what you're returning. I'd be probably fine with, right? Because again, like as excited as we are about all these guys aren't going to make it.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the reality of the situation, right? As good as the prospect pool is, there's a difference.
Remember when we were all super excited about Ryan Merkley?
Sure. Yeah. Again, like there's a guy who, I think fell in the draft and unfortunately just couldn't put it together in the pro game, right? But like the frustrating thing with Ryan Merkley was the tools were all there. It just wasn't between the ears.
Yeah. We were all super jazzed about Ozzy Weisblatt for a hot second.
I still love Ozzy Weisblatt. I think Ozzy Weisblatt's great, and I think he got called up in Nashville again, so good for him.
Let's see here. I saw something else from Ricky. Ian, you've stolen Joe Will's job and are now the GM of the CUDA. After firing McCarthy, would you re-sign Brandon Coe or Bordeleau?
I think Bordeleau's a decision that would probably be higher up. But no, I would not even. I don't think I'd even bring Brandon Coe back on an AHL deal. I would make room for someone else to, because at that point, like you're filling a spot, right? But Thomas Bordeleau's a guy I think that the Sharks might cut bait on, but I think it would be like that decision would come from over my head as Joe Will. I think that'd be a Sharks decision and not a Barracuda decision. I hope that's not a cop-out answer.
Yeah. From Bob here, this is an interesting one. Speaking of Quentin Musty, what are your thoughts on trying to package Musty and the number one pick that the Sharks got from Dallas for Noah Dobson?
I think that it would address a need on the team, and I think that as much as I like Quentin Musty, I do have concerns about having too many guys that cannot play both sides of the puck. Noah Dobson's Noah Dobson would address a pretty significant need for the team, and he's not old at this point, right? Like Noah Dobson's what, 25, 26 maybe. So I he's a guy that could be around and shore up that side of the defense. I think I like Noah Dobson. I don't know if you trade the farm for him, but I don't think I would hate it because I think it addresses a pretty significant need that the Sharks have based on what they currently have in their prospect pool and available in free agency. Like right hand defense, decent right shot defensemen don't generally hit the market. So if you can lock one down, then you do it, in my opinion.
Yeah. You got to give to get, but boy,
yeah,
a first rounder and Musty, that's a lot to check
yeah
down.
But I think and Ricky's saying here, the Islanders probably the problem that for the Islanders is they're a weird team. I don't know where they're at. Like Ricky's saying that they want an NHL scorer. Maybe they do. And Lou Lamorielle's a strange cat. I don't know how you look at that team and go, this team's almost competitive. Like I don't think much of the New York Islanders is they're in that mushy middle of they're not so bad you have to tear it down, but they're not good enough to win a cup, which is a pretty awful place to be. So it's hard to determine what a team like the Islanders would probably want in return for Noah Dobson. If they want roster players, unless you're giving them fucking do they want Mario Ferraro? Do they want you know what I mean? What can you do you have to give them a guy like Zetterlund to make that work at this point, right? And then that comes with its own risks and challenges. I don't know. I really like Fabian Zetterlund, but I don't think he's completely untouchable either.
Yeah. Tarantula wants to know, by the way, Ian, how much more shit can you fit on that shelf?
I know I have a lot of stuff on there. I want to do something with it, but then I look at it and I'm like, it's work. I don't want to. It's true though. Yeah, I mean, I have so many things up there, and it's all dated now. It's all super dated, so it's probably time to refresh a little bit.
Oh, what's this from Tarantula also saying? Complaint, is it just me or have the sound guys at the tank seemingly turned up the bass on the speakers to 140%? Seems louder in the arena than years past. Perhaps. I think it also has to do with the kind of music they play that has, a lot of bass in the mix.
But I think the acoustics also change when the arena's mostly empty.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was the thing this week. I mean, you had 2 games in the middle of the week. The attendance reported was just over 11,000, and that's, tickets distributed. So we know the number is not 11,000. It's less than that. But then the Dallas game is a sellout. So yeah, it's all the water bags there are going to affect the way the acoustics are, but Can I
hit Burge up in the chat here? So Burge is saying, so we traded Ozzy Weisblatt for a Russian who went back to play for his team in Russia. Meanwhile, Ozzy made it to the NHL. I think the thing with Ozzy Weisblatt, and I love Ozzy Weisblatt, I love the type of player he is.
I can't remember. Who the hell did we trade for?
I can't even Svenioff or something like that. And it was a situation, right, where they are hoping that they could baby say, hey, look it. Maybe you can sign here and we can get something going, and it didn't work. It was kind of like what they did with Leon Gavanke. The thing with Weisblatt though was he was immediately cast in the depth chart by Ethan Cardwell, who I think brings everything that Ozzy Weisblatt brings and does it better.
All right.
And I love Ozzy Weisblatt. Like, I don't want to don't get like, I love Ozzy Weisblatt. I, again, like, just the tenacious little ball of fucking hate that he is. But you know, you kind of have that in more in Ethan Cardwell. So I understood why they cut bait there.
Let's see here. Ricky saying, did you guys hear about the Dangle Podcast Network talking about Cunnin to the Leafs? I hope we get a second for him this draft, as weak as fuck. I do remember, I think Dangle had tweeted out earlier sometime this week.
Something about being a Cunnin truther.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm here for that.
Luke, yeah, I mean, Toronto makes a lot of sense for Luke Cunnin based on Brad Treliving being the general manager there and knowing the type of players he likes and the off, like as much as I clown on Luke Cunnin, like, he's had a pretty decent productive year, right? I don't always agree with where he's in the lineup or anything like that, but to me, it makes a lot of sense. To me, I don't think his value would ever be higher. I don't think it's super high, but I don't think it would ever be higher than it is right now.
I mean, I'd be interested to hear what Toronto's offering, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Let's see. So, Chernyshov with 3 goal, 4 assist weekend for the Saginaw Spirit, averaging 2.8 points a game so far.
Which is silly.
Dude, sick. And then, I mean, you go to the elite prospects, just run down the list. It's Chernyshov, Quentin Musty, Dickinson, Podorowski, Muldowney, Lund, Lawback, all right now are over a point per game pace. I mean, come on. Some of these guys got to stick. What have you thought about Potsy with the Sharks so far in the limited run?
I think, I know I was a guy who was very anti bringing a guy like Podorowski up because I think he is what he is at this point. I think I understood the reason they brought him up, though. I think they were trying to look for, like, to kind of have some veteran presence down the middle with Wenberg being out. So I understood it. It probably should be Bortolo, though, right? Like, as much as I've been unimpressed with Bortolo this year, like, I feel like at some point Bortolo is probably the guy that has to come up. The thing with Paul Borowski too, and it was and Eric Ward on Twitter kind of pointed this out when I was tweeting about him getting sent back down with a couple of guys, being, I think it was Colin Graff and Thompson got sent back down for the break, as long as Podorowski, and he brought up a really good point that they kind of had to send him down because usually veterans don't go back down, right? Like for breaks like this, but like if he stays on the Sharks too long, that dude's gonna have to clear waivers when everyone's healthy and there's no room left at the inn. And somebody, if you keep him up to the point where he has to clear waivers, somebody's going to scoop him up. And that's just not great for the Barracuda business at all. Right. Yeah. It's dumb business, right? Because someone like a fucking Calgary will come scoop him up and put him on the Wranglers because God knows they need another forward. And then where are you? Right.
Let's see. I saw something here. Semcat saying, does Bortolo need to clear waivers?
I don't believe so. I don't think he's had enough games in the NHL that he would have to clear waivers. Let me just double check that quick, since I do like to talk out of my ass sometimes on these shows, and I have a web browser right in front of me.
Well, I was going to say, what's the old site that had everything, and now Puckpedia is okay, but it doesn't come close to
Cap Wage. I prefer Cap Wages to Puckpedia.
But what was the one that we all loved that the Capitals bought or whatever?
Cap Friendly.
Yeah, God, we miss Cap Friendly.
Forwards. Where am I at? I can't imagine that he would have to. Yeah, he's waivers exempt. So I don't know how many more games he would be waivers exempt for, but he's waivers exempt. So you could bring him up, send him back down. It makes a lot more sense than keeping Paul Dorowski up for any stretch of time. I'm sure the Sharks are hoping that by the time this break is over, that Wenberg will be back, and then they're kind of, they're not good or set down this. Like, you don't want to say they're set down the center because it's not really when you look at that center and go, yeah, that's some NHL centering. But it's more ideal than what it is right now with Granlund being gone and Wenberg being out of the lineup.
Well, make sure to follow Teal Town, Ian Reed, Sharks Jules, Lacey on the Twitter for those live takes and occasional gifts of what's happening with the Barracuda. This week, what do we got? The Cuda, we're going to play 2 in Colorado and then 1 in Bakersfield and then 1 in San Diego. So just, with the Sharks being off for 2 weeks, this is a great time to follow the Barracuda. They got 4 games this week.
Yes, they do. I just want them to string some fucking wins together again. Like, they've got Askarov back now. Like, it's time to get back on the horse here for the Barracuda. Frustrating team, right? Like, and they shouldn't be as frustrating this year. Like, there's still a team that's still pretty comfortably in the playoffs, but like this last month, and I think people are gonna be like, well, Ian, the call-ups, but I don't think the call-ups have like. This isn't previous years where like the call-ups were so bad that you're signing guys to ATOs to fill out the lineup, right? Like, I still think that there's enough guys down there that they shouldn't be this Jekyll and Hyde. Like, the problems aren't the problems aren't the losses, it's how they're losing. That's the problem. And that's more than just, oh well, they called up Askarov and then they called up Potter. Like, they've still got horses down there that should be able to weather this storm. Like, yes, are they at their maximum power right now? No, of course not. I mean, they will be for the next 4 games, but they're the way they're losing games is very concerning at this point.
Yeah. A guy in his doc says Muldowney has 14 points in his last 10 games for UConn. There's more prospects than we talk about. I mean,
100%.
I just mentioned Muldowney, dude.
Yeah.
I was saying. Chernyshov, Musty, Dickinson, Podorowski, Muldowney, Lund, Laubach, all over a point per game pace right now. So obviously things you'd like to see, and if we can get more in that grouping, that would be even better. I mean,
yeah, and like, look at I'm gonna talk about, like, and I think the thing here too is like you have like holes, right? I don't watch a lot of college hockey. I don't watch any college hockey, let's be honest. So like, I'm going to talk about guys that I watch like playing junior hockey, right? Like, I think there's going to be obviously holes in the coverage. I think if you want to talk about like college guys, follow Mark on Twitter, Marky Mark. That's just really good when it comes to the college prospects.
Yeah, I mean, going to see Musty and Dickinson like soon live.
I did watch Dickinson live. I am going to see Musty. I think at the just before I go on my trip to Ottawa to watch the Sharks, and then I also am hoping to go and watch Chernyshov at the end of March when he comes to the Sioux as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, a town called Ottawa. All right. This week it's the Four Nations break. Obviously, or begins that. So just to let you all know, there won't be the usual Pucknologists next week. There's going to be something there in that slot. At this point, I have no idea what the hell it might be. And I don't think I'm going to be involved in it. I'm hoping to take next week off. So I'm sure that there'll be some combination of every, because I don't know how much of this Four Nations stuff I'm going to watch, to be quite honest with you. But when we come back the following week, it will be a takeover night because the Sharks play one of their rare Sunday games in 2 weeks. So we have that to look forward to. And with that, I don't know that there's really anything else to get into because, again, it was just it was a week of kind of like, yep, expected that. Yep, that seems about right. Just there's really, not that I know of, just not much to cover that we haven't, talked into the ground already.
Yeah. Like I said, like nothing that the Barracuda did was surprising. I think the only thing that surprised me about the Barracuda moves for the Four Nations was that Mukamadulin didn't go down as well.
Yeah. God.
And that could be as simple as, that he's just nursing something, or maybe they just, they like him enough that they feel like he should be treated like an NHLer at this point. Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't. Clearly.
Ale in the chat saying AJ for president. Dude, I'm way too honest to be a politician. Way too honest. And that's are you looking forward to being the 51st state? Is that still happening?
No, listen. You want to
Is that not happening?
No one wants that. No one wants that. Like, there's only one guy that wants it, and unfortunately, he sits in the big chair. But like, no one else does. Like,
oh man, I have to move to Greenland then. Oh wait,
nope.
yeah.
Look at I am actually, now that you bring that up, like, I am glad that we are finally moving back to the real villains of the world, like Greenland.
Yeah, that's
It's time to deal with the real villains in the world again. Sorry, Greenland, that's you.
yeah. All right, so like I said, we're not going to have a normal pucknologist next Sunday. There'll be something in this time slot next Sunday. It just won't be a pucknologist because there'll be no shark stuff to talk about.
Yeah, we're going to do some fun stuff during the Four Nations, though. Apparently there is going to be some shows after each game in the Four Nations, so stay tuned for that. And I believe we are going to do another watch along for the Canada-US game, which should just be fantastic. If you were around for the World Juniors edition of Canada versus US, you could see me at my absolute most despondent. So if you want to see that again, you can tune in for that.
I still don't understand how they put that roster together, but that whatever.
Well, I think like I think in net is where Team Canada is like really weird. But I think it's also like the time that they had to make the team too was weird, like that they had to do it so far in advance to announce the team for it.
Yeah.
That, like, I understand the logic behind it. Like, you have, like, Sam Montembeault was probably never going to play because he was just like the third guy, right? He's a young guy who a lot of people think kind of high of. And then you have Aiden Hill, recent Stanley Cup champion, Jordan Bennington, recent Stanley Cup champion. Like, I get the logic behind it, but I think if you were able to decide that a lot closer to the tournament, like, you're probably not bringing any of those guys. So, yeah.
All right. Let's cover this thing that Ricky's got here.
Mm-hmm.
Says, I got something. Rumor is Chicago's going to take a forward this year no matter what. If they move up past the Sharks, we'll still get Schaefer, and they trigger the 2 picks in 5 years rule. Should we actually be rooting for Chicago to win the lottery and move past the Sharks?
So it wouldn't be 2 picks in 5 years because much like the Sharks, the only time that 2 picks thing triggers is if you move up. If you draft where you were supposed to draft, apparently it doesn't trigger. That is how Elliot Friedman explained it on a 32 Thoughts podcast. So I am going to trust Elliot Friedman that he is correct on this. I don't care who the Sharks draft. Like, getting Matthew Schaefer would be fantastic, but I'm completely comfortable with getting any of the 4 top guys, which they're not falling. Like, there's no run they're gonna go on that's gonna move them up the thing. Even if Chicago somehow finishes worse than us, and then the lottery ball screws, like, the worst you're picking is 4.
Yeah, I mean, and it's
right.
From what I've understood.
They did move up for Bedard. No, they Ricky, no, they were the worst team in the league that year.
Yeah, they had the number 1 pick. But the Chicago didn't win the lottery, did they?
The lottery balls, like, again, it's the same way that it was the same thing for the Sharks. They were the worst team in the league that year.
Okay.
When the Sharks getting Celebrini. So that's the same. They didn't move up. They just didn't move down.
Got it. All I've heard is that this draft is...
Were they? I got to go back and look. Oh yeah, you're right. No, you're right. That would, yes. If Chicago did move up, you're right. Anaheim, they did move up. It was Anaheim that was the team. You are correct.
Okay. See, we'll own it.
Well, yeah. See, you're right. I had to go back and look.
The thing that gets me though is from what I've understood,
they were really bad that year though. So I'm not surprised that I thought they're the worst.
There's not, yeah, no doubt, right? There's no clear cut. Well, I mean, Schaefer is obviously like swam a little higher than everybody else, but there's not that huge difference between whoever goes first and then the next 3 guys the way there was the last couple of drafts.
Correct. Yeah.
So
like, this isn't like Matthew Schaefer is the guy that you want because it addresses a positional need for the team.
Mm-hmm.
And so I understand, but like, I like Matthew Schaefer. I don't want like anyone to think that I don't like him, But I'm not like, oh God, like it's not like last year if you missed out on Celebrini.
Well,
It's not the year
exactly.
before if you missed out on Connor Bedard. Like you're gonna get a player, but like I don't think there's that big of a difference between Schaefer and the guys behind him.
How many first round picks do the Sharks have right now? 2 or 3?
Two, I believe. There's in the Dallas Stars pick.
Didn't they take get a Vegas pick too, or was that? Am I thinking of last season?
They moved that in. They had to move one in the Askarov deal, right?
Oh, you're right. Yeah, shush. Okay, so it just makes me wonder though, would they consider, to say, just hypothetically say the Sharks have a Jones for Schaefer, they're picking third. Would they take that third pick and the Dallas pick to Chicago or whatever and say, hey, we want to go number 1. We want the Schaefer kid,
No, I don't like maybe, but like that happens so rarely. Right? Like it's not like if you look at like especially like more recently, you haven't really seen teams been able to move up in the top 5. Like even teams in the top 5 moving up, like that just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And I think it's fine. I think the Sharks are going to get like again, you're going to get Michael Misa, James Agents, or Porto Martone, and like all of that is fantastic.
All right. I guess I need to find out whatever Trailer Park Boys is. Steve saying we just need D-men desperately. Our blue line is so incredibly ass.
Yeah, and it's going to happen. Like it's going to get addressed at some point. I just don't think you have to go and change it. Like it doesn't have to. I think a lot of people are like, oh, this team's never going to be good again because look at this blue line. But like, look how long that blue line is signed. Right? They're not.
Yeah, dude.
None of those guys are signed. So it's unfortunately you kind of have to deal with what's left. Like unless if somebody actually finally scoops in and grabs Mario Ferraro at the trade deadline, like he's probably back next year. Jake Wellman, I don't have an issue with being back next year. He's probably back. Henry Thrun is back next year. Timothy Liljegren, unfortunately, is back next year. Marco Vlasic still here next year, even if he's only here in spirit.
Well, when the Sharks do come back, you want to talk fucked up? They start a 7-game road trip. Dude.
Yes, I'm aware.
and it's like all Canada. It's at Calgary, at Winnipeg, at Montreal. So right there, it's like at Calgary and then a little more east to Winnipeg, a lot more east to Montreal, then Ottawa, of course, like you were talking about, and then Toronto, and then over the water to Buffalo, and then, we're going to hit Colorado on the way home. But, dude, that is a brutal trip. They don't play at the tank for a calendar month.
Yeah, that's the nightmare scenario.
Oh, man. I mean, in all of those teams, for the most part, oh man, that could be.
I hope that cannot happen in January next year. That's all I'm gonna say.
Well, dude, I'm just looking at that schedule, and like, look, I'm obviously we want to have the number 1 pick, but we want the Sharks to have the number 1 pick. We want to see this team be entertaining while still trying to be there. But, dude, what was it like? 1 loss in their or 1 win in their last 11 games.
11.
And then they're going to do this 7-game road trip where they could realistically go 0-7.
And the trade deadline is quickly approaching.
Well, I was going to say it comes right at the end of that trip. I believe the deadline is the day before the Colorado game, so it's going to be
the 7th or something, isn't it?
Yeah. So they're going to play 6 games, 5 in Canada during that stretch. But oh man, just could you imagine? And again, they're going to have that stretch of games on the road. Don't be surprised if there's going to be a couple players that are on the roster today that won't be by then, if we're lucky. So. Anyway, and Burge asking, is there something going on at SAP during that time? Like they used to have that tennis thing that, that was, God, over a decade ago, that whole thing ended. I don't know. I'm sure there's going to be something if you go to, sapcenter.com or whatever the address is. You can go look at whatever calendar of events they have going on. I figured it was either
I think it's
going to
just a quirk of the schedule, though. I don't think it's like because like SAP Center is booked for something, though. I don't recall them. It's like I feel like if that was the case, we would have heard something about it by now. Like,
Yep. No, it's just I think it's just a scheduling quirk, and maybe the Sharks take advantage of that and schedule some extra things, or maybe they're doing some maintenance stuff around the tank that we just don't even know of.
yeah.
But anyway, so I think that'll do it for us. Any last things before we get out of here?
I don't know. I feel like we've hit the chat pretty hard. Yeah, I don't really have like again. I'm excited for the Four Nations thing because I just think that it's going to be fun. Like it's not the Olympics, but I think it's still going to be cool enough. It's going to be nice to finally see some of these guys play in that situation because we have a whole generation of NHL players that have never played a best on best tournament outside of the World Juniors, and that's just silly.
So, Four Nations this year, Olympics next year, yes?
Correct.
So, we're talking 2 straight seasons with no All-Star game then?
I believe that would be correct.
Wow. All right. Is what it is. So, remember to like and subscribe. You can help keep us commercial free by using the Super Chat option, as Burge did early in the show. Thank you for that.
Yes,
and
sir.
Obviously, we prefer Venmo because that way Google doesn't take 30%.
However, we are appreciative of anything that we are given.
Yes. You can find links to our social media, podcast apps, and more included in the show notes, and find everything on tealtownusa.com. For those of you who, won some money or just wanted to see the Chiefs lose like I did, congratulations. And with that, good night. Have a pleasant tomorrow.